Ableton has just announced Live 12, and in this video, I want to share with you my favorite new additions that have been transforming my workflow ever since I've been using it. So let's dive right in. Now, one of my favorite features that has been added to Ableton Live 12 is the ability to customize your view both in arrangement and in the session view. Let me show you what I mean. Now, here in the arrangement view, you can now add your session view in sight. So by going to the bottom right-hand corner and simply clicking the bottom right-hand corner icon here, you can now have your session view mixer in sight of your arrangement. You can also add your clip view as well, so that if you wanted to just highlight your clip and have the devices on the bottom as well as your mixing view, you can have that as well. So it's really customizable now, which is really cool because now you can have everything at a glance with a single monitor present. So same thing with the session view. I can hit tab and enter my session view here and customize that the way I would like. So on the bottom, you have your clip view. You can enable that or disable that, or you can actually get rid of the devices on the bottom as well. So if I just want my devices, I can go ahead and leave that the normal way it is in my session view, as well as the change in the VU meters and making the volume slider indicators a lot more bigger and easier to keep in sight. You can also scale these a lot higher, so you can have a lot more detail as the overall dynamics of the volume of your tracks. And believe it or not, here's one little adjustment that goes a long way for me, and I've been dying for this feature to be added for so long now, and that's the ability to magnify waveforms. So if you go right here in the arrangement view, you'll notice this new icon. You can enable that, and you can now expand the magnification of waveforms. So if you got any waveforms that might have some information on there that, although it's fine in loudness, but you can't really view what's on the waveform, well, you can do this now to actually magnify that. So really helpful tool, especially if you're trying to identify what's on that audio region. Next up is the browser. There's been some crazy steroids injected here, and it's a really good, helpful tool in increasing your creative workflow overall. So typically how I would use Ableton Live's browser is I would bookmark certain locations in my hard drive and presets and find sounds that I can instantly go to so that I can find the sound that I like and add them into my project. But now we have the ability to kind of narrow down or find similar sounds to spark creativity in our workflow. So typically I would go to the browser, hit Command F, that'll take me to the top of the search, and I would type in a word, let's say snare drum, snare. And here now we have all the results with the word snare in there. So I can browse, find whatever sound that I want, and then use that. But you'll notice something on the right. We have a new icon, and this is our similarity icon. Now what this is going to do, it's going to allow me to focus in on sounds that are similar to that sound I just located. So let's say that one snare drum, which is the one that's very top of the list. Now I can preview sounds that don't necessarily have the word snare in them, but are sounding similar to the one I first found. Huge game changer here. And as you can see on your right, there's a bar graph indicating how similar that sound is. And the more lower you go in on the browser, the less likely that sound is similar to the one you originally compared it to. Using the algorithms that Ableton Live has in the search allows you to narrow down the sound that you're looking for. Now, how is this a helpful tool? Think about it like this. Let's say you sample a snare or a kick or a hi-hat or just a really cool sound off of a record you're trying to reference. Now you can be like, I'm looking for a kick or sound just like this. Do I have anything in my library that's similar or close to this type of sound? Well, now you have the ability to do this by using this feature. It's also very helpful. Let's say in my drum rack here, I have a couple sounds and I can actually do the same feature. This is kind of like hot swapping on steroids. If I hit the similar sample icon now located on the drum rack, I can go ahead and lock in certain notes or sounds that I know I really do like and I don't want to change. And I can then hit this arrow key to change out all the samples, but lock in the ones I hit the lock for. Or I can individually go and browse and rotate certain sounds that are similar to the ones I already have on my drum cell. This is really cool. So here's that sample. If I trigger it, I can now click this button and look for samples that are similar. This is amazing. So rather than just scrolling endlessly through different snares, hi-hats, and kicks, this is going to give you a better scope of sounds that are similar to where you started from, but yet you can find more body, more tail, more texture, and it can really dial in exactly what you're looking for when in the production process of your idea. You can also get more detailed searches by clicking the filter option and narrowing down specifically what it is that you're looking for when browsing. So for instance, when you go to your plugins folder for external third-party plugins, you can then drop in the filter, look for that plugin by maker, and whether you're looking for an instrument or just an audio effect or a device, preset, so on and so on. So your searches can be really customizable. And then one main key thing is the browser now has a back and forth so that you can actually have a browser history. Let's say you were finding something while finding a similar sound, but you then ventured off to finding something else, but oh man, what was that sound? You can now go backwards in your browser history to find exact things that you were listening to before so that you don't lose that sound, instrument, or plugin that you wanted to use in your projects. Now, there have been some major improvements in being able to transform your MIDI performances, and I won't be able to go into detail of all of them as I'm still figuring out all the crazy additions they've added, but I want to highlight some of my favorite ones that have been included in Ableton Live 12. So here I have this MIDI performance, and right off the bat, you notice you can toggle between your notes, envelopes, and MPE right from the top here, which is really cool. And we can now highlight 2 or more notes, right click, and choose to chop notes on the grid. So that will take those notes and subdivide them according to the current grid that you have, which is really cool. So you can instantly create rhythms just by setting the grid the way you want them to, and it will automatically create its own subdivisions. You can also join 2 notes together by highlighting the notes and hitting Command J. Now you can glue them together. You can also highlight the notes and the region, and then you can fit to time range, and that will consolidate those notes to the highlighted time range. They're minor things, but they go a long way. Now you might have noticed there is a scale that's identified here in the top toolbar region of Ableton Live. And that's if you identify or know the scale that you're currently working in, you can go ahead and put that in here. So right now I'm working on F minor. And what's great is now you can do some cool things like folding and just illuminating the scale. That's been there, but you can highlight the scale. And now you can do things like adding intervals. So for instance, let's say that one note there, if I hit add interval, it all grays out and now you're focusing on that one note. And then since it's all snapped to scale, you can go ahead and head one note here, and it's going to add an extra interval note. You can add another interval, and it'll add another interval, and so on and so on. So this would be a cool way to just create chords that you normally won't play or write in. And this is all set and based on the scale that you're currently using. So if you change this here, let's say G, it will change the results that you do when you're modifying these parts. So we'll go back to F minor. This is also helpful too. So if you've written a bass line in F minor and you want to do a quick shift over to a new key, you can do it all from the top as well. So it makes it really helpful, especially when you're doing a lot of MIDI performances. Here, this section here that allows you to transform your MIDI performance. So we have it on arpeggiate, and right now I can set the different rates here, and it's going to arpeggiate the actual MIDI performance. All the notes that are selected will be played at this rate now, and I can set the distance, the type of that arpeggiator, and we can just go ahead and either hit transform to see it happen on the fly or apply that when we hit this button here. So this is really cool. You can do an arpeggiator, you can do pitch stretch, you can go to the quantize and actually quantize this on the spot, and I'll hit transform here. And so I can see what it's doing when I actually highlight these sounds here, and I can nudge them, or just gradually adjust them. And I can have it set to the current grid or to the nearest 16th note, triplet, and I can adjust the start or end. I actually like this on the spot transformation of the quantize, because then I could set it more or less that sweet spot, especially when I'm programming drums. I can dial that in as like, oh, that's a really loose quantizing setting right there. And it might not always be 42% or 58%. So I like being able to dial it in there. Then we have this really cool way to add some strum or a new approach to the actual MIDI performance as well. So right now it's set to pitch, and we can actually change the pattern itself. You can adjust and change the pitch there. And then so this is just the rhythm. Seed would actually be different notes all around. Let's say if I wanted to just come up with a whole different range of notes here, I would go and give myself a range of notes, the duration that I want. It's every 16th note, things like that. So you can already start to see a lot of light bulbs start turning on. I'm like, whoa, this is super cool. This is just coming up with some random awesomeness that I might stumble across, some really inspiring performances that I would want to keep and then use that for my project. And if I didn't want that to happen, I can just simply go right back to the original or move this over to my session view and experiment there as well. So the MIDI performance stuff has been really, really cool to experiment with to come up with some new creative ideas. They've added this amazing new distortion called Roar, and man, is it awesome. Roar is pretty intense in how you can morph and shape the sound of anything that you're running it through. So for right now, I have it going on this bass. So let's just focus on the drums and that bass part. Now you can modulate the different LFOs here and have them routed to anything else you want here by the matrix, but it adds this nice feedback mode, built-in compression here, and it can get pretty nasty of what you can do with Roar. You can set the routing to single, serial, parallel, multi-band. That means you can focus in on just a specific band that you want to have going through this type of distortion. Here's the mid, here's the low, and here's the high. So it is pretty intense, awesome. This is my new distortion plugin, and I've been having a blast with it. You can determine the type of shaping here. We have soft sine and shards, full wave rectifier. It's just amazing. Ableton Live 12 also includes a new instrument, a synthesizer called Meld, and you can create some really great atmospheric tones and drones and some really great textures to your tracks by just messing around with this. And it's so customizable. Everything very similar to the wavetable, where you can adjust the matrix to any parameter, and really sky's the limit here when it comes to curating, getting the sounds that you're looking for. So really cool synth. And then I also want to mention that, and this is a very small one, but it goes a long way, Momentary Hot Keys. What I mean by that is you can momentarily access a command and then let go of it to have that parameter go right back to its original state. So for instance, let's say I wanted to solo the drums. I can go ahead and hit the S on my computer keyboard. Holding it down will solo it, and as soon as I let go, it goes right back to being back on soloed. And same thing is if I'm automating, and let's say if I hold down my B on the computer keyboard, it'll switch on to the draw. So I can draw in my automation and then let go so that I can snap right back to the arrow. These are small details, but they go a long way in creating this seamless workflow to help you be as creative as possible. So those are some of my favorite new additions to Ableton Live 12's update. I'd love to hear in the comment section, what were you expecting in this update? Were some of these really cool additions to your workflow? Were you expecting something else to be included in this? Leave it in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you about that. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was encouraging for you. And as my gift to you for watching this video, I'd love to send you a free video series that helps you skip years of frustration when wanting to pursue a career in producing your own music. Now, this is yours absolutely free. Just simply click the link below in the description box or visit beatacademy.com/producer. You either click the link below or visit beatacademy.com/producer to access this video series. I hope it encourages you and inspires you in pursuing the production of the music that you're passionate about making. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.